Who ever wondered how we got to the moon? Probably not. It's pretty common knowledge. One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Well, if you clicked on this video, it means you might want to learn a little bit more, or just hear the same story again. You're the one who clicked on this video. Quest for the moon happened during the Cold War. It was a, well, race for space. Kennedy really wanted to get a man on the moon. In general, the space race was just a race to space. But, you know, the US didn't want to lose. Technically speaking, Yuri Gagarin, a Russian cosmonaut, was the first man in space. However, it's not like anyone can tell the US they lost, considering their competitor doesn't really exist anymore. In order to get to the moon, the United States launched the Apollo program. The Apollo program was basically, well, the program that went to the moon. That's pretty self-explanatory. And the first Apollo mission that got to the moon was Apollo 11, containing the famous astronaut Neil Armstrong, with those famous words I said at the beginning of the video, and also a bit lesser known Buzz Aldrin, and then completely forgotten Michael Collins. A moment of silence for Michael Collins. It's a really sad story, you know. It's like you were like the third person on the moon on the first mission ever, and then people just forget about you. Like, it's so sad. But radioing those words back from the moon was not the only goal that NASA had for the Apollo missions. Now, the goals for the Apollo mission, straight from NASA.gov, were 1. Establishing the technology to meet other national interests in space. This is actually the one goal that has still helped us to this day. The amount of technology that was put in to the moon, the lunar landings, and because like there's an insane amount of more money that was put in during the specific time, this technology boost has managed to keep us good technology, yes, until now, right? The second goal is achieving preeminence in space for the United States, which is basically more related to the space race. The Russians never got to the moon. Thirdly, carrying out a program of scientific exploration of the moon. So basically just exploring the moon. There's not much to that. And finally, developing human capability to work the lunar environment, which they did do. They got all of these goals done. They technically got preeminence in space, because even though the Soviet Union got to space first, the United States got to space more and in a better way. And, so yes, the United States does have preeminence in space. They did establish good technology that can still be used to this day. Humans were able to work the lunar environment. They were even able to play golf on the moon. And so, yeah. Those are some really ugly bullet points. When I said that the Apollo missions were crazy expensive, I mean it. Depending on your source, it can go from $25 to $27 billion, meaning that adjusted to inflation, that can go up to $250 billion. That's the same GDP as Finland, meaning that if the Apollo missions were its own country, it would be the 61st highest GDP in the world. And there's 200 countries in the world. Clearly see how much NASA's budget went up during the Apollo missions. If we look at the graph right here, we can see a graph of NASA's budget over the time that the Apollo missions happened. The blue is just the Apollo mission budget, and the gray is other NASA stuff. As you can see, the amount of change that the Apollo missions had on the NASA budget. And it wasn't other stuff, it was just Apollo, because we can clearly see the gray is almost the same. Obviously, a little bit after, the gray started to get bigger, and that's because as soon as the moon landings happened, people started to be more interested in NASA and feel like it should have more power because, you know, they got this massive success. But we can clearly see that it's mainly the Apollo missions that had this huge effect on the NASA budget. Now let's get back to the actual moon landings. In order to get to the moon, NASA had to use a giant rocket called the Saturn V. Saturn V you've probably seen before. Well, it looked like this. Now, to scale, this is how big a person on the Saturn V would be. Put that right there, you can see how huge it is. So here's the basics of how the Saturn V worked. Because it's such a huge rocket, it can't carry it can't just carry the entire engine, because engines are heavy, and boosters are heavy and stuff. So it had different stages. And what would happen is, as soon as the one stage ran out of fuel, it would detach so that it wouldn't be carrying that weight anymore. So, basically, most of this was just to get it into orbit and get it out of the atmosphere, because it's just so it needed a lot more, momentum. So basically, here's how it worked. So you had the rocket would go up like this, and then the first stage would disconnect, which is like here. There we go. There. This is the first stage. Once that had disconnected, the rocket would be left with this. And this would continue going up, and then after, when this ran out of fuel, this would disconnect. Like that. And then you'd be left with this rocket. This would continue going up. And then finally this would disconnect. However, this part is special. Inside this top part here is the lunar landing module. This thing, which you've probably seen in most of the pictures. Basically what happened is, this part would open up. So these two parts would break off like this, and basically the lunar module would be here. And what would happen is, this top part, right, would basically disconnect, and it would, its top would connect back onto this thing, like that, and it would push it onto the moon, and that's how they would also get back up. Make sense? This top part was the data uplink system, which was, fun fact, built by Motorola. Saturn V is currently located back at Cape Canaveral, where the space shuttle launches happen, and where the Kennedy Space Center is. Now, a moon landing denier might tell you, well, if we went to the moon, why did we just stop? Well, not only was it insanely expensive, it also just took the power of basically the entire nation. At its peak, 60% of all integrated circuits in the entirety of the United States were being built for the Apollo missions. And so, sure, it did happen 50 years ago, and we could go back. It would just be useless, because the moon, we basically know all we need to know about it. That's the thing. We are going back. In order to get to Mars, the Artemis system is going to be building a space station that orbits around the moon. It's pretty cool. However, that's not what this video is about. I mean, I could make another video on the Artemis project, but if this video does fairly well for my channel's standards, like 20 views or something. But for now, this is just a video about Apollo. And Apollo 11 wasn't the only Apollo mission. The first Apollo actually was a complete failure, and most of all the astronauts died in a cabin fire on the ground. And it was a terrible tragedy. The other Apollo missions were usually sent to send people not just to the moon, but up in the sky, in orbit, and things like that. If you want to read more about this, then I left a link down below for my sources, and if you click on the one that's for NASA, they have articles for all of the Apollo missions from 7 to 17, I believe, and also for the first one, and some test flights information, so you can read more about it. So down below are, with my sources, is a Forbes article that's actually really interesting, because it has it has information about the costs and stuff about the Apollo Saturn V, but also it has a little infographic thing where it's a Saturn V and each individual part of the Saturn V, each individual stage, and who built it and how much it cost and stuff. So that's pretty interesting, I would say. And also another thing about the different costs, because I had to do a bunch of research on that. And also, yeah, so that's basically it. Thank you for watching this video. It actually took me quite a while to make, and I actually re-recorded the entire video because my first rendition of the video was kind of boring. It was just me sitting down. And so I hope you liked it. If you did, it would mean a lot if you liked the video and subscribed maybe, because usually my videos, I don't put much effort, but I put some effort into this one. And so, yes. Thank you. I should probably just end. I'm gonna end this now. Whoa, my finger is on this. I'm gonna